There, welcome to another live stream. Going to be diving into some Jimmy Dore content. That guy is a dynamo of truth. I got to tell you, if you're not following him, go check it out. He's very, very prolific. I don't know what I don't know what drives him. I do know that he was not happy about the VACCINE. I think he took it and had some adverse side effects from what I understand. Let me share this. We're going to go to his Instagram page in a minute, but I want to share this one here to you and talk about it. Let's see. This is it right here. Okay, buckle up.
The world's terrorists are the United States. Look what we did to Iraq. Look what we did to Libya. Libya, the most successful country in all of Africa. The guy created the eighth wonder of the world with the way how he delivered water and turned deserts into farmland. And everybody had a house and everybody had education and healthcare. And we turned it into a failed state run by terrorists with open slave markets. Who did that? Barack Obama and Hillary Clinton did that. And they'll never have to pay a price for that. Barack Obama, the most he'll do is go, that was a mistake.
But why did they get rid of Gaddafi?
Because he was going to start a currency of Africa that was going to compete with the US dollar and the euro. And they can't have that because the way the United States controls the world is because the United States dollar is the reserve currency of the world. So that's why they can put sanctions on all these countries. And so what they're doing, which they shouldn't do, they're weaponizing the US dollar. And so like when countries want to trade with each other, they have to go take their currency, change it into US dollars so they can trade. And a lot of it was based on the petrodollar, which, by the way, Saudi Arabia just quit. They didn't renew it. I don't know if you heard about that.
Yeah, I did hear about that.
So, and all of a sudden, CBS News is starting to do news stories about how Saudi Arabia was involved in 9/11. All of a sudden, 24 years later, all of a sudden, oh, you know what? Turns out there was something happened with them. And they're like, you mean 2 weeks after they decided to not renew the petrodollar? Now CBS News is allowed to talk about that and investigate it, which when I talked about it got demonetized. But anyway, that's why, because Gaddafi was doing that. He was going to set up a currency for all of Africa, and it was going to be based on, have a gold standard. And so they're like, no, you're not.
Yeah. Let's talk about it and share what you know in the comments for us to learn from one another. Yeah, my understanding is Libya had the highest human development index. I don't know much about it, but it sounds like a good thing. The highest human development index in Africa. Lots of free things. Housing, I understand they gave like $50K to married couples when they got married. The eighth wonder of the world, bringing water to Libya. I didn't know this, but Libya has no rivers at all. All the water is underground in a certain area. And Gaddafi, over, I think it took multiple decades, engineered this aqueduct system to bring water from one part of Libya to all of Libya so they could farm that area. I had no idea. All we hear is the propaganda over here. And my understanding is the US and NATO, when they went in and, helping the rebel forces, which is complete bullshit, just like they tried to help the people in Iraq and unalived 2 to 3 million, including the 500,000 babies. Unbelievable carnage the United States has done under the guise of spreading freedom and democracy. Complete total bullshit. My understanding is those jets, I don't know why you would knock out the waterway to the people and destroy the waterway, but my understanding is they put depleted uranium weapons on that waterway and kind of like permanently damaged it. So, it's unbelievable. And then, of course, they throw the people back into, decades, reverse their progress by decades, and chaos ensues, just like it ensued with Iraq, Unbelievable. Let's go check out Jimmy Dore's page here. I just love this guy so much. Let's see.
Marijuana is legal now in California, which will create empty beds in the private prisons. And so to me, it seems certainly plausible that they would want to fill the private prisons up with homeless people. And let's remember how much it costs to incarcerate a person in California. It used to be $75,000 a year. Now it's up to about $125,000 a year to incarcerate someone. I think they'd rather do that than actually try to solve the homeless problem. They want to get people to be hating on the homeless people. So you will be okay with locking them up in a private prison at a profit, and they charge the state for that instead of actually fixing the homeless problem or helping out the working poor.
Our country is so whacked. It's all, it's all about the money, right? And then I think it's just getting more corrupt as time goes on. So much is being exposed. The other day, I saw a news article about something to do with the fires in LA, and there was some nonprofit out of, I think it was Connecticut, organized fire aid or some kind of fire concert. And when they all told, I guess they raised 100 million, and like 70% went to administrative costs and the higher ups. It's just super sketchy business deals going down in the United States. Let's see what else he has here. Make Israel great again. Let's see what this one is here.
If you fall for the war in Iran, you're a sucker and a dupe. But I don't believe most of MAGA will fall for it. I know Marjorie Taylor Greene, even when Trump was bombing Yemen, tweeted out, nobody voted for this. Nobody voted for this.
Yep.
Nobody did vote for this, but you're going to get it anyway. Just like nobody voted for a war with Iraq. Nobody voted for us to occupy Afghanistan for 20 years. Nobody voted for us to overthrow Libya. Nobody voted for us to overthrow Syria. And now Al Qaeda is running it. Just like all of that, nobody voted for any of this, but you're getting it anyway because Trump is not America first. He's Israel first. He's not MAGA. He's MEGA. That is, make Israel great again. This is all about the Greater Israel Project, and don't fall for it.
Dude, I swear, Jimmy Dore, he is on fire. Let's see. Oh, question your doctor. This is always good. Let's see what he says here.
Part of the responsibility of being a parent is, unfortunately, is to not trust everything your doctor says and to understand that the medical...
Part of being a responsible parent is not trusting everything your doctor says. All through COVID, people wagged their finger at you and said, don't do your own research. That was because if you did do your own research.
Part of the responsibility.
Have you seen his bit where he talks? It is hilarious. I shared it. I could be even a year ago, where he talks about people being shamed for doing their own research. It is so funny. It is. Our whole society got like warped back into like the Stone Age, and people, he's like, it used to be called reading. It was shamed.
Research, you would find out, if you looked into the COVID narrative even a little bit, you would find out that they were lying about everything. Not only funding of the virus, creating it as a bioweapon by the United States government and Dr. Fauci funding it. They were lying that it came from a wet market, that it didn't come from there. They were lying about that. They called you a racist if you question that. They were lying about herd immunity, natural immunity. They lied about the vaccines. They lied about masks. There wasn't a thing. And they lied about lockdowns. That's why they really had to push that, right? Is because if you did look into it, that you would find out they were lying. And that's kind of what he's speaking to right there, that you should question your doctor because your doctor's not questioning the establishment.
Dude, that is so true. They had to move. They had to move so fast, right? Fear and rushing are their two favorite weapons to get their stupid agendas passed. And so if your government is making you afraid, red flag. If your government's trying to rush you, red flag. Dude. Let's do this. Yes, Springsteen is a fake.
In my home, the America I love, the America I've written about, that has been a beacon of hope and liberty for 250 years, is currently in the hands of a corrupt... In my home... I
can't say that it's been a beacon of hope and liberty given what we've done to countries all over the world. I think the CIA has interfered in 80 to 100 countries to install puppet leaders that will do the work, do the bidding of what the people that run our country want. So he's right there and there. He's got propaganda problems right here.
The America I love, the America I've written about, that has been a beacon of hope and liberty for 250 years, is currently in the hands of a corrupt, incompetent, and treasonous administration.
First time. Just started. Corrupt administration just started. Just not, first time. Just started this
time.
January. First time. Okay. Anyway, I'm going to try to stopping it, but I can't.
Oh,
In America, they are persecuting people for using their right to free speech and voicing their dissent. This is happening now. In America, the richest men are taking satisfaction in
oops. Sorry about that. I was going to try to turn the volume up, and
abandoning the world's poorest children to sickness and death.
it's wild he'd even mention that, given the fact that we bombed children. So
This is happening now. In my country, they're taking sadistic pleasure in the pain that they inflict on loyal American workers. They're rolling back historic civil rights legislation that led to a more just and plural society.
Yes, we've criticized Trump for all this stuff. To pretend like this is partisan and to pretend like only the Republicans do this or only Trump or this all started under Trump is what really is stomach churning.
They're abandoning our great allies and siding with dictators against those struggling for their freedom.
Oh, by the way, if Bruce Springsteen wanted to stand up for workers, I said the same thing about Cornel West. Where were you during COVID when they were forcing an experimental medical treatment, which we now know was a super not good idea, to forcing that on workers? Where were you? Did you stand up for the workers' right to refuse an experimental medical treatment, or else they couldn't go to work or they couldn't travel?
Nope.
Where were you then? You were nowhere. When it took actual courage to stand up for a worker, they were nowhere. Hey, where were you when Joe Biden was crushing a railroad union strike? Where was Bruce Springsteen then? They're nowhere.
In my home.
yeah.
In my home.
That I think what they're doing is trying to pit Americans against one another. Divide and conquer has always been their plan. Everything they do is to get us to fear one another, to hate one another, to fight with one another, to basically divide us so that they can conquer certain sections at a time. Because if they tried to conquer everyone at one time, it wouldn't work. It wouldn't happen. But they just want to create so much fighting. Race wars, gender wars, social status wars, wars against people pro-vax, anti-vax, pro this, pro that. And did it as many ways as they can divide people. That's how their strategy is, and that's why united we stand, divided we fall. Let's see what else we have here. Let's look at this. Israel's real enemy.
I will say it. The real enemy that we have is not Iran, which is an enemy. It's not Hezbollah, which is an enemy. It's not Hamas, which is an enemy. The real enemy is from within. The messianic, crazy, extreme groups of Israelis that think that they can kick out the Palestinians and annex their territories. I'm fighting against them, I'm campaigning against them, and I think that this is incumbent upon the Israeli government and Netanyahu. Unfortunately, Netanyahu depends on them politically to the extent that he closes his eyes and he allows them to do things which are totally intolerable and unacceptable.
Everybody is saying the problem is Netanyahu. Even the former prime ministers, Ehud Barak, is saying, the problem here is Benjamin Netanyahu. It's not Hamas. It's not the Palestinian babies. It's Netanyahu, because he's wanted this all along. They want to make it so unlivable in Gaza, which they've done, and now they're starving them, so that it'll be such a horrible disaster that they'll leave and go to other countries, so that the Israeli Zionists can take over Gaza 100%. By the way, don't forget there's $500 billion worth of gas underneath Gaza. $500 billion.
Yeah, I think they're trying to do what they did with Fauci. They want to pin all of the bad actions on one guy, and then Americans and/or the world, put all their angst on Netanyahu. But the result's still the same. People are dead. the land is ruined. I mean, I don't understand. They just use one guy and then they burn him out, and then, but the agenda, the ball gets moved down the field. It's so freaking frustrating, nothing ever happens. Let's see here. Traumatized air traffic control. Let's see what he has to say here.
I've been saying this now for years. The country isn't a little corrupt. It's 100% corrupt. Meaning
Sadly.
that right now, you can't fly into Newark Airport because they don't have enough air traffic controllers. They had to cancel thousands of flights. It's not safe to fly in there right now. 20% of the air traffic controllers walked off the job. It's not some kind of work stoppage or some union movement. You know what they did? They claimed trauma because a month ago, all their screens went blank for 90 seconds and they didn't know where any of the planes were that they were talking to. They didn't know what was going on. And they were all so traumatized by this because there's a clause in their contract saying if you are physically or emotionally traumatized, you can take time off. And so 20% of the air traffic controllers that handled Newark Airport have walked off the job claiming trauma. And why did that happen? Because we're using equipment that is way out of date. In fact, it was a copper wire burned. We're using copper wire, not fiber optics. That's how old this is. Russell Dobular talks about how the switches for the subway in New York City are 100 years old. So this is how all empires end. We are not investing in our own country. When we had those deals with China, right? So we outsourced all our jobs to China, and China sent us cheap goods. And both sides made a lot of money. China said that. Well, both sides made a lot of money, which we did. A lot of money was made in China. A lot of money was made in the United States. The difference is in China, they put that money into their infrastructure. And now their country looks like it's in the 23rd century. In our country, we don't have high-speed rail. We were using 100-year-old switchers for our subway. We don't have infrastructure. Our roads are crumbling, and our air travel is not safe.
Jeez. I don't, that's true. I don't know if you've watched some of these videos of some of the airports and train stations and infrastructure going into China and other parts of Asia, and even in the Middle East, Dubai and those places. It is pretty impressive. And then the content creator that I was watching, he contrasted it with some of the subways in New York, and they look like they're from like 100 years ago. And obviously they are. It's wild, and when Jimmy Dore says this is what happens when empires end, I agree with him. Something isn't right in America. Like something isn't right. Remember a while back, weren't they talking about bridges? We're kind of needing to repair a bunch of bridges, and then it becomes a danger issue, Let's see what else we have here. Okay, let's talk about Israel here.
This was surprising to me. Tucker and Matt Walsh. Matt Walsh works for the Daily Wire. We all know Daily Wire's in the tank for Zionism and Israel and the ethnic cleansing. People like to challenge you when you say genocide, but they don't challenge an ethnic cleansing because that's exactly what they're trying to do.
Yeah.
They're trying to get rid of the Palestinians out of the Gaza and the West Bank. That's their plan. That's called an ethnic cleansing. On Tucker Carlson, or do you say Carlson? I say Carlson with a Z. Tucker Carlson about Israel. Hold on to your... Here we go.
Israel cannot exist without being propped up by the United States. You think so? Its nuclear program came from the United States. Its weapons come from the United States. Its economy is supported by the United States. I'm not attacking Israel. I'm just saying in point of fact, I think that's true. And, Israel thinks it's true, or they wouldn't have armies of lobbyists and influencers in the United States. Bibi wouldn't have shown up twice in the past 3 months.
I think that's true. At first, I was like, oh, is Matt Walsh going to try to push back on this obvious point? But guess what? The answer just may surprise you. Or will it?
Any country, if there is any country out there that fundamentally cannot exist without being subsidized by American taxpayers, then not only should that country not exist, but that country already does not exist. It's not really... That's interesting. It's not really a country. Right? No, it's...
Damn! So correct me if I'm wrong. Tucker Carlson saying Israel could not exist without the money from the United States. Matt Walsh does it one better, says not only it shouldn't exist, And if it is existing, it's not really even a country. So what he's saying is that if you can't survive on your own, you're not a real country. You're a colony. And that's what Israel actually is, a colony of the United States. And so basically, Israel should be called isn't real.
I've heard that before. Clever, and I do agree with it. The way I've started looking at Israel lately, probably the last handful of months, is it's not a country, it's a business situation, right? My understanding is it's, rich people saying, hey, we want a presence in this area to facilitate our business deals in oil or gas or diamonds or whatever else. I mean, whatever else. And I think there's also a deeper, more nefarious reason for it there. Albert Pike's letter to Mazzini comes to mind, which appears to be playing out now. I think it's just a business deal, right? The U.S. is in on it. England's in on it. Bankers are in on it. People in the Middle East are in on it. It's a business deal. Just like everything in this world is run by money. I mean, our country worships at the altar of money, right? I mean, it's all money. And then they frame it in like some, grand, they got to put smoke and mirrors on it to sell it to the American people. And the American people buy it. I used to buy it. I didn't know anything I knew next to nothing about Israel prior to October 7th of 23. And then I did a deep dive and I'm like, holy shit, this thing is whack. Let's see, cost of truth. Here we go.
Well, I know we lose viewers over this. We lose subscribers and viewers. Well, we're telling the truth about Israel and telling the truth about free speech and liberty. There's a lot of people who think, no, free speech is just for American citizens. Well, then you don't get free speech. Free speech is a principle. You're supposed to believe it comes from God. And what the Constitution says is that we're not going to interfere. The government won't interfere with that God-given right of free speech. So you don't believe in the Constitution, because if you think that free speech is just for citizens of the United States, you don't get the whole idea of free speech. You're missing the whole idea. The whole idea is it's a principle and a value that you're supposed to try to spread around to as many people as possible. If you believe it's just for American citizens, then you believe it's a privilege. You believe in privilege speech. I don't. I, like the founders of our country, the writers of the Constitution, believe in free speech as a principle that isn't given to you by the government. It's given to everybody from God.
He makes a good point, and this is the other thing, the way our leaders frame things can exclude certain ideas or make it look like, oh, like he says, it's a gift from the founding fathers. He makes a good point, right? And he also makes a good point talking about that it should be for the whole world. I mean, that's what our government says they're doing when they go into Iraq and Libya and Afghanistan, bringing free speech. All I see is a trail of death and carnage, which is hard, it's unacceptable at this point. It always was. Let's see what else we have here. RFK. Let's know he's got a globalist agenda. Let's see what this is.
This is the head of Palantir, and this is from about a year ago, and he's going to tell you why this is the most important essential fight, because they can't lose the narrative around Israel-Gaza, and this is what he said.
I think is a often overlooked part of this battle is we kind of just think these things that are happening across college campuses especially are like a sideshow. No, they are the show. Because if we lose the intellectual debate, you will not be able to deploy any army in the West ever.
This is not a sideshow, what's happening at these colleges, these college protests. They are the show, because if we lose control of the narrative, we'll never be able to deploy an army in the West ever again.
Good.
When he says we, he means the globalists and the international security state and the military-industrial complex, the people who actually run the world.
Yeah, good point. I think I've never seen this country so awake. I don't know what's going on. I sometimes ask myself, are the people that run the country getting lazy and dumb and off their game? Are they off their game plan? Or are Americans just becoming smarter? I don't know. Something's going on here. It's really, really wild. Granted, not everyone is, seeing what's going on, but I think everyone's seeing it more than they ever have before. I don't understand what's causing it, but hey, thanks for hanging out with me. I appreciate you guys. I will see you in the next one. Stay safe out there and have an awesome night. Bye-bye.